listening to the best of the Martha Zoller Show. To hear the full show each day, tune in to AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN or log in to accesswdun.com and click the Listen Live button from 9 to 11, Monday through Friday. Grover Norquist is here with me today, and Grover is really the OG tax cut guy, and I want to know, I'm getting lots of questions about this bill and why the House didn't go farther. Will the Senate go even farther? So we thought we'd get him on to talk about it. Grover Norquist, how are you?
I am doing very well and very cheerful because a serious extension of the Trump tax cuts and a strengthening of the Trump Republican tax cuts from 7-8 years ago is through the House and will be strengthened actually in the Senate and will be on the president's desk by July 4th. That's huge. And as Speaker Mike Johnson talked about, there's also a very serious reduction in the growth of spending. Yes, because of entitlements, it goes up, but it is tremendous savings from what the government was planning to spend under Biden.
And, there's all this discussion about dynamic scoring and, how the CBO looks at things. And I guess I got frustrated. And you can tell me if I'm off track about this. Everybody's talking about this. Yes, we are extending the the Trump tax cuts. But for 7 years, these are the rates people have been paying. If you're in your 20s, these are the only rates you've ever paid. Okay? So if you're in your 30s, for most of your working life, these are the rates you've been paying. I think we need to couch it as extending the rates you're already paying instead of making people think or letting the Democrats say we're cutting taxes. Because we raised revenues under these rates. We just overspent on top of that.
Yes, yes, and yes. The Democrats in the House of Representatives who voted against this bill voted to, on the beginning of next year, increase taxes each decade by $5 billion. That is what they actually voted for. They voted for an automatic tax increase, which would take everybody who pays taxes would see their income tax rates go up. High income, low income, middle income, businesses would all see their rates go up. You would see the collapse of the incentives to create new jobs, the expensing for research and development, the expensing for business equipment and so on. For all of these things would disappear. The per-child tax credit would fall in half. The standard deduction would fall in half. Many people who don't pay taxes would begin to pay taxes. It would be a significant $5 trillion every decade out in the future tax increase. This bill avoids that. Now, what it also does is it'll take us to about a 3% growth rate, which is what happened when we first did it and made it permanent, and because it's been declining and we are getting past the Biden inflation and the other challenges we had there, beginning to do some serious deregulation. A 3% growth rate moving forward would see all of the projections on deficits go down by $4 trillion over a decade. So this bill, because it is a pro-growth bill, then because it is also part of the effort to deregulate, to make it easier for people to get energy, low-cost energy, both for their own driving their own car, but also for businesses that hire people, it will both reduce the deficit from what it was planning to be and tremendously increase employment. All very helpful. And you're right, the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, scores have historically been wrong because they just do guesstimates. That we're going to be selling some spectrum, some sort of radio spectrum, TV spectrum that the Pentagon's been sitting on for years, not doing anything with, and will now be sold, and it's worth about $90 billion or so. Actually, they think it'll be a lot more, but they cut in half the projection savings, revenue into the government's savings against the deficit, because maybe it won't happen. Well, the law says it's going to. And CBO just makes a bunch of decisions like that. I'd much rather have 4 or 5 private companies do the estimates, and then every time they put the estimates out next year after that, you can say, here's their track record, and here's what they got right and wrong, and here's what they say now, and then you can make your decision as to whether it made any sense. Instead, CBO says we're the monopoly, and no matter how wrong we've been in the past, we refuse to learn, and we're just going to keep doing this way because it's easier.
So, Grover, the numbers for the election in 2024, the Democrats lost in every group except for a 1% gain in married liberal women and a 1% gain in, mega voters, people that vote in every election no matter what. Every other group, young people, white, black, Hispanic, you name it, they lost. They lost a share. Is this another Reagan revolution?
Well, I think it is. What I see happening, and this has been predicted for some time, for 100 years, Roman Catholics voted majority for Democrats in Congress. It wasn't until the victory in 1994 with Gingrich and so on that we got a majority. We win majorities for president with the Catholic vote, but not with Congress. We finally did in 94. And it took a while because sometimes when Irish Americans and Italian Americans came into the United States, the person who was mean to them was Protestant Republican. And it took a while to get that fixed. And I think Hispanics coming in who come to the country or in the country legally and vote are both seeing the value of free markets and Republican politics. And the Democrats who've tried to say, we'll put you on welfare, you don't have to work kind of thing. No. That's not what we want. We want what everybody else has. And the Democrats have failed to ghettoize new groups of voters and convince them that because you're a woman, you're supposed to vote for high taxes, which is why does that make any sense?
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Grover Norquist, we appreciate you so much being with us today, and we're going to get this big, beautiful bill passed out of the Senate and onto the president's desk by July 4th. Thanks for being with me today.
You got it.
It's local radio, and that's why you're listening. It's the Martha Zoller Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
Last week, Representative Will Wade announced that he was going to be running for the state Senate seat that's going to be vacated by Steve Gooch. And so we wanted to talk to him about it. So he's joining us right now. Will, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Martha. Thanks for having me, and happy Wednesday. It's I think May has been very wet, but I'm
cold.
Excited about some expansions. It's cold and wet. That's right. But hopefully you had a wonderful Memorial Day, and I know our family did, and it's a special day for my family. My late grandfather is served in the Air Force, and he's buried in Arlington, Purple Heart recipient, and I don't know, we always just reflect on those that gave that last full measure of devotion, and I don't know, it's just it's a great time of year, but it's also one that I think real Americans can look back and thank the previous generations for all they've done for us. So anyway, but yep, I am going to run for state Senate. It's official.
So tell us about that decision and then what you want to accomplish.
Well, so Martha, you've known me for a long time. This is something that, my wife and my family and, a lot of the folks in the community that were very supportive of me running for state house initially when Kevin Tanner decided to take a stab at Congress. And, with Senator Gooch's decision to run for lieutenant governor, this Senate district has had a steady leader for the last 15 years in the 51st Senate district seat. And he's been able to accomplish a lot of great things for North Georgia. As a community banker, this has been my market area my entire career since 1998. So I've got a lot of great friends across the district in all 7 counties. And I want to be an effective leader to continue to champion North Georgia values and make sure that those North Georgia values have a seat at the table at the state capitol. And I feel like at this time, I didn't have a goal of running to be in the state house and serve there 30 years. This is about being at the right place at the right time, and if the people are looking for somebody that can hit the ground running day one to pick up where Senator Gooch leaves off, I feel like I'm the best candidate, the best person that's prepared to be able to navigate the policies that I think North Georgians care about, which is lowering taxes, continuing to reduce the size of government. State agencies need some right sizing, and really just some modernization. And always focusing on what's in the best interest of students and putting students first in Georgia. That means all students, whether that's public school or even looking at the next way to help ensure that families have choices that meet their children's needs. So I look forward to the campaign, and I had a friend say, "Will, you got a safe seat. Nobody's going to run against you this time." I'm like, look, that's not what it's about. This is about service, and this is about helping represent North Georgia values in Atlanta.
So, is there anybody else in the race yet?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything either. Yeah.
There is a Democrat that has, I don't know that they've filed their actual ethics paperwork, but I think y'all's news organization picked up, somebody has indicated from Blairsville that they'll run for the Democratic nomination for this seat, but no other Republican has qualified to my knowledge.
That's how I recall it too. So, you've been in the House for a few years, not very many, and you know how things are done there, but you've observed the Senate. What would you want to bring to the state Senate if, not only from an issue standpoint, because that's really important, but a getting things done standpoint, because I've been frustrated the last couple of years, quite frankly, not with Senator Gooch, but with the Senate in general, that it seems like they're moving in a different way than the House does. And that's going to happen from time to time, but you got to get things done.
Yeah, look, I bring a business background, and ultimately, I want us to be policy focused. I also think that the Senate's going to be an opportunity. Look, there's a lot of senators that are running, are reported to or will be running for a different office. What I plan to bring to the table is I'm not coming in there to run to be a senator for 1 or 2 terms and then try to go for the next statewide gig. I would be running to serve the folks of the 51st District. My kids are, 9 and 11. Who knows what the future holds for statewide stuff, if I'm even going to be somebody that does that. But I know I'm not going to do that while I've got kids at home. So I can spend the next 8, 9, 10 years, if the people want to keep me there, focusing on what can we do to make the Senate even more effective, not just on the politics side, which I think they do a good job of planting their flag on what they believe, and that's great, and I think we always need to do that. But like you said, we've got to get things done. And if we really want to tackle making Georgia the next state that has zero income tax, we've got to have a pragmatic, roll up your sleeves, let's figure out which tax credits we need to get rid of and cull so that we can get to a 0% income tax potentially in the next 5 years.
I'm so glad to hear you say that because, this business of going from 5.39 to 5.19. I mean, yeah, I'm happy. I'm always happy to have a tax break, but I mean, that's ridiculous. Okay. You need to come up with something more. Why not go to 5? If you were going to go from 5.39, I just think that sometimes we get too involved and we can't do something. And what I want to see, and the frustrating thing for me for Senate and House Democrats, is I know a heck of a lot more about what they think about Donald Trump than I do about what they want to do for Georgia. And what I want to know from people who are running for office is what do they want to do for Georgia? I'm going to assume if you're a Republican running, that you probably supported Donald Trump, and that's fine. But I, as a person voting on this seat, I'm not voting in this seat, but any seat I vote on, locally, I care about what you're going to do for Georgia.
Yeah, and I look, that's, you know me well enough to know my passion for education, for economic development, for prosperity, for all Georgians. As a banker, I want to see economies thriving. I want to see good business. I want to see us tackle and champion that, look, if you're a student in 2025 and you're in high school, there are 3 equal opportunities for success in life, not one that is better or worse than the other. Technical school, college, or the military. And with my background with the University of North Georgia and friends who are serving in the military, as well as the partnership that I forged as a Dawson County School Board member, bringing Lanier Tech to have a campus on site at Dawson County Schools to help dual enrollment. We were doing that. We were one of the leading communities in the state that was doing it before everybody else started adopting career college academies. Those are the types of solutions that the other counties that may not have that right now need a leader pushing for those opportunities. And, lastly, I'll say, I'm the type of person that wants to accomplish big, hard goals. Some of those things include, like I said, getting us to a 0% income tax. But it also means we really need to cull the tax credits that we have in this state that do not make sense anymore. They may have been great for the 20th century. They're not great for the 21st century. So you got to have some give and take. And I also think that we've got some bureaucrats in some of the state agencies that have been doing the same thing so many years. They're resistant to change, right? Reagan had a great saying, the only thing that lasts longer than, or the only sure thing is death and taxes is a government program, right? We've got to look through every state agency and put a mechanism in place that will allow those agency heads, whether they're statewide elected or if they're appointed by a governor, a process to say, hey, we need to stop doing this. What if we revamp this and then this is working, we'll leave it alone, it's fine, and then return those tax dollars back. So we don't need to pay for everything. Government's got to get right-sized, and I think the Senate and the House have to work together. I also pledge and had a great conversation with Speaker Burns. I want to be a friend to the House in the Senate. I want to take my relationships that I built over the last 5.5 years from the House to the Senate and to be able to be an effective legislator to get big things done.
So, Will, if people want to help you, how can they do that?
They can go to www.votewillwade.com, and as always, they can reach out and call me on my cell phone, 678-776-5395. And Martha, as always, I look forward to seeing you out on the campaign trail. And I do have to say, 51st District is one of the most beautiful districts in all of our state. So it's a fun place to ride around a few hours through the North Georgia mountains.
Absolutely. Will Wade, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Martha.
Putting the talk in news talk. It's the Martha Zoller Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
Joining me right now is our new Labor Commissioner, Barbara Rivera Holmes. She is new to the job. She was appointed by the governor after the death of Bruce Thompson, who many of us knew and loved, and also, just were with him on his journey as he battled pancreatic cancer. But she's joining us right now, and we wanted to get to know her. Barbara, welcome.
Good morning, Martha. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about you. I think for a lot of people, this may be the first time they've heard your name.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to do that. And it's a bit of a fun story. But the interesting thing is that I feel like all of the pieces of my career really have been leading up to this. And so my role truly has been shaped by a deep commitment to service and within the professional realm to economic growth and workforce development. I'm a native of Puerto Rico. My family and I moved stateside when I was 7. English is not my first language, so if you ever catch a little quip in the pronunciation, you'll just have to forgive me for it. My mother's family is from Cuba. They emigrated to Puerto Rico, and then again, my family and I, when I was 7, moved stateside. And then I moved to Georgia in 2002, married a young gentleman from Albany, and chose to make that our home, and very, very glad and proud that we stayed in rural Georgia. Worked naturally. And called the Albany Herald on my 23rd birthday and said, I have a journalism degree and I'm moving to Albany. What you got? And so they hired me. And I worked all the beats, Martha. I worked education, I worked healthcare, I worked government, I worked the crime beat on Saturdays, and ultimately landed on the business desk. And I loved it. And then I decided that I wanted to be part of that economic activity, leveraged that into a job at the Development Authority, worked my way up to being Vice President of Economic Development with a strong focus on industry expansions and recruitment. And then 8 years later, went to the Albany Area Chamber, where I was the CEO until just recently. So again, big background with economic growth, workforce development, and working closely with businesses and policymakers to strengthen our regional economy and our state economy. So the work that I've done in that background really has given me a lot of insights into the challenges that our job creators face, the opportunities that we have to build a strong workforce, and also being very people-centered and people-centric as well.
Well, and I love that you've built this career kind of mostly in South Georgia. Before I came back to radio in 2019, I first worked for Senator Perdue's first campaign and then set up his field office and traveled all around the state for him. And then I did the same thing for Governor Kemp in his first term. And, so I've traveled, for 6 years, I traveled 3,000 miles a month all around Georgia. And I think one of the things that really sets you apart is the fact that you've kind of built this career in South Georgia, because we're very Atlanta and North Georgia centric. I mean, I live here in Gainesville, which I love, and we've been growing by leaps and bounds for a very long time. You don't even recognize it from the town I moved to. I grew up in Atlanta. So it's exciting to hear this story.
Well, thank you. I do think that is a unique advantage, and having lived in rural Georgia, and I still live in Albany, and so I'm in Atlanta working, but I'm throughout the state working because we are a statewide agency with 800 employees, 34 career centers, and we touch every citizen of Georgia and every business. So we're all over the state, but Albany is our home. We love South Georgia, and so that's where we're positioned. And it does bring a different voice to Atlanta and to the halls of government, and making sure that we are delivering on that so that every part of Georgia, not just our metros, which are extremely important for Georgia's economy, but so are other parts of Georgia. So having that background, understanding how other parts of Georgia, how other communities work, how the employers work, what the needs are, really does bring a different voice and perspective to how we provide services and solutions, both responsively but also proactively, so that we can really look at Georgia holistically and be able to move her forward.
So you have decided to run for a full term in 2026. So tell us what your goals would be. I know you've only been on the ground in the department for a few months, but you've got this Chamber of Commerce experience, this business development experience. What do you see as the role as the labor commissioner? Because I think a lot of people don't know what the labor commissioner does or what they should do.
Sure, that is a great question, and you're spot on. It is a little bit of a cloudy space for a lot of people. So one of my biggest priorities is moving the Georgia Department of Labor into a new era through modernization. So focusing on leveraging technology to streamline our processes, improve efficiency and service delivery, and make it easier for job seekers and employers to connect. And I talk about modernization because we have some, I'll be honest, some outdated systems at the department. So we're embracing digital solutions. We have a new technology strategy that we're working on, and that will allow us to better serve Georgians where they are. And so with that, Georgia, the Department of Labor's portfolio, a large component of our portfolio is managing the unemployment insurance program. And then another piece of the portfolio is workforce development. But on the unemployment side, we are helping Georgians when oftentimes they're at their most trying experiences, and making sure that we have the tools, the resources, the platforms, and the people to help Georgians is key, so that we can provide those services, and then helping reconnect them with employers so that they can transition as quickly and seamlessly as possible into the workforce. And so that modernization is important, and then that workforce development remains a key focus for me and for our department. So working to strengthen our partnerships with businesses, our educational institutions, training programs, to ensure, again, that Georgians have access to the skills that they need for high-demand careers. We have a lot of state data that we leverage and that we share with partners that give us very clear insights into what the job market looks like today, but it's what it's going to look like in the future, what skills are needed, what jobs are growing the most. And so we can leverage that information to help with those high-demand careers.
It's interesting because I represent the 9th District on the State Board of Education. And one of the things we're growing and expanding greatly is what's called our CTAE programs. That's career technology.
That's right.
Education and agricultural education. I had to get it all in there. But one of the things that I'm really excited that we're doing is that we're going down as low as elementary school, and we're starting to teach basics in things like construction and engineering and electrician work and doing it through the math standards. So, starting with the basics, how to measure things, how to do certain things, and getting kids a little exposure to it in third, fourth, and fifth grade, then so that when they get into middle school and high school, when they have opportunities to either take a course at their own high school or be dual enrollment with a technical school, that they'll have a little exposure and they'll know a little bit about it and feel more comfortable about making that kind of decision. And I'm excited about that. Is there, do you work with the state board? I mean, not the state board, but the Department of Education on this kind of stuff to help people know where this is? Or would that be something that you wouldn't work with?
Absolutely, we would work with them. And so with the data that we have, making it available to more partners so that they can leverage it with programming is key. And so as I'm making my way, getting to know more of our state leaders, I have a great network. I'm based in rural Georgia, but, Albany is an important component of Georgia's economy. My work at the Chamber gave me statewide access to policymakers. 7 years on the Board of Regents gave me another level of access. So really understanding all of those components. So great network already within the state leadership, but meeting folks that I haven't met as well and bringing to them this opportunity of partnership with the Department of Labor, with our data, with what we know from employers. So I just kicked off a statewide tour, and I'm big on listening to our citizens, listening to our businesses, taking that information back to our partners, for example, at the Department of Education, and we'll hope to meet with them very soon so that they have not just the data, but the color behind it. So quantitatively and qualitatively, here's where we are, here's where we need to go. And I'm a big believer in getting into the schools early, but also getting our students out into our businesses early. And so developed some programming when I was at the Albany Area Chamber and its foundation with a large talent portfolio aimed at introducing students to pathways and also aimed at helping our educators get off campus and into businesses so that our educators could see more relationism between what they're teaching in the classroom and what our employers are going to need and helping with that alignment.
Well, and it's so important because, look, I'm old enough that either you went to college or if you were 18, you got a job that paid well enough that you could move out of the house and you could start on a path either to have your own apartment or move into your own home. And it's people say, things have changed, but I don't think they have to have changed. I think that we are not funneling people into the right kinds of fields. But to your point about technology that you were talking about earlier, whether you're talking about the $6 billion website that the federal government built for Obamacare back in 2010, or all the things that DOJ was finding about these antiquated systems in the federal government. I know from transitions in insurance and transitions in the Labor Department where you are that there was a whole lot of that going on in Georgia too. So do you feel comfortable that I'm sure every system in the Department of Labor has not been replaced, but do you feel comfortable there's a plan in place to get there, to get the systems in government, at least the portion you're over, into the 21st century?
I feel comfortable and very confident in our ability to deliver on our modernization. It is the largest modernization project in state agency history. It is massive, but I'll tell you what, Martha, we are running the Department of Labor on the unemployment insurance part from a operating system built in the 1980s, and that is inefficient, and it doesn't allow us to serve Georgians best and expeditiously. And so this modernization project, which will go live with a brand new platform in third quarter, is what we're looking at 2026. So this isn't we need something and we're going to have it out in a couple of months. This is a very strategic, methodical process with a lot of oversight from other state agencies as well. And not just on our end, but there's a lot that's gone into it. We have the support of legislators as well. So absolutely confident that we're doing the right thing and modernizing. We're taking the right steps and being very methodical to deliver on our promise so that we can better serve Georgians.
Barbara Rivera Holmes, if people want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Well, there's a couple of different ways. Certainly, I'm at the Department of Labor. If you want to send me an email, I would love to hear from you. You can email me at commissioner@gdol.ga.gov, and that's on our website as well if you want to track us there. You can follow us on Facebook on the department side, the Georgia Department of Labor. And as you know, I launched my official campaign yesterday, so you can visit me at Barbara for Georgia on a variety of different platforms. So I hope your listeners will follow us along. come to me with questions. I'm also happy. I love meeting with people, Martha. That goes back to who I am as a person, also my background in journalism and economic development. You meet people, you meet businesses, you learn about them, and then you figure out how you can better serve them. And so that is a key focus of mine. But would love to come out to your communities. We kicked off that tour, so I'm making my way anyway. But if we need to put you on the top of the list, please give us a call. So we'll be making our way.
Well, we look forward to having you in studio here. We have a beautiful studio on the square in Gainesville. We came back to where we started 75 years ago as a company last year, and it's a great facility. So you're invited to come anytime to do a radio town hall.
Well, I would love that. I'm actually scheduling something in Gainesville here very soon. So, Martha, I'll reach out to you and absolutely would love to meet you in person and see your new studio.
To hear the full versions of last week's Martha Zoller shows, go to the podcast page at accesswdun.com, and you can follow me on social media at Martha Zoller.